I don't know. I mean, Jen, what can you say about Helen Thomas?
Well, I mean, I remember her growing up my whole life. I remember her she was like a fixture really in the press room. I mean, I had been watching her in the White House press room forever. And this was back when there were somewhat normal decorum-like press conferences where they actually would ask questions and then those questions would get answered. So this was a little bit different time. Like we're so far from that now, but yeah, no, I remember her being a very quality journalist, forever. And I remember when this happened, and I remember this going very badly. I remember when this happened. And I remember, of course, all the Zios were not having it.
This is an example when people complain about what has happened to the media in this country. This, again, the one thing you guys have probably noticed about our live streams is that we try to make it as synergy driven as possible. Now, at the beginning, we talked about Zio scumbag evangelical freak show Mike Evans and talking about the importance of controlling the media. Well, that's pretty obvious. But this also comes full circle here because Helen Thomas was what a real journalist was supposed to be. She wasn't there to be a friend. She was there to get the story. That's what a journalist's job, that's what Jordan Chariton and James Lee's job are, for example, in terms of being a journalist. You're not there to be a friend. You're there to do your job.
And well, this was also in a time where if you weren't a friend, you didn't lose your credentials. So we're at a time now where people are having to walk that line. If you want to be invited into the press room, you have to be a friend. So that's the game that it is now. She existed in a world where that wasn't necessarily the case.
Go back and watch some of the press conferences during Watergate when Helen Thomas would be there and questions would be asked of President Nixon. He didn't dodge them, and he didn't have many friends at all, as we all know. But at the end of the day, the job was done. Today, that's over. And that didn't start with Trump. He just took it to a whole other level. But no question, this is imperative. From Drop Psych News.
Helen Thomas. She covered 10 US presidents from John Kennedy to Barack Obama and was the first woman to break into several White House reporting roles, including the first female officer of the White House Correspondents Association. Her career came to an abrupt end in May of 2010, when a rabbi with a video camera asked her about Israel outside the White House.
Tell them to get the hell out of Palestine. They go home.
Where's the home?
Poland.
So the Jews,
Germany.
The Jews go back to Poland and Germany.
And America and everywhere else.
She was spitting facts, and the world was just not ready to hear it yet.
And to think, she was probably, I guess, 80 years old at the time when she made this statement.
I don't know. She might have been even older. I mean, she lived for a while after this. I mean, she lived afterwards, but she was not allowed to go back to the press room. She got she got blackballed.
Yeah, no, I think she's probably about, I think she lived to be close to 90 or something. But yeah, she was somebody, it is without question. You always say, if you want to know who's in control, find out who you can't criticize.
Of course.
And this is somebody who everybody knew. Everybody knew her. This is a person who had personal conversations with JFK and everybody leading up to President Obama, who unceremoniously had her removed.
Correct. Thanks, Obama.
Obama got rid of her. Now, do I think Obama did it on his own volition? Of course not. But there are people who really believe that the commanders in chief are the ones that are in charge. No, the last president who thought they were in charge had their head blown off. That's how this works. So unless we are willing to take back our country, because that's where we are, then this is what we're faced with.
I remember when this happened very clearly.
50-year career.
Mm-hmm. And Obama kicked her out of took away her credentials.
Oh, yeah.
The clip spread instantly and the backlash was swift. The backlash included the White House Correspondents Association condemning her, her speaking agency dropping her, Hearst Communications forced her into retirement within days, and major outlets that once relied on her reporting blackballing her. Thomas spent half a century grilling presidents, but her criticism of Israel ended her career. She kept writing and giving interviews afterwards, arguing no journalist should be punished for opposing Israel's cruel policies towards the Palestinians. But she never returned to the White House briefing room, the place she dominated for decades. This comes as the New York Times is planning to sue the Pentagon for imposing new restrictions on how journalists can report on the military.
So that's why this is coming up, because this is what's going on currently.
And considering that the New York Times is as pro-Israel as any news source, news being a very loose term, the news source, now the New York Times is suing the Pentagon. As I said, this is a full-blown spiral. But as you've been saying, Jen, since we started this podcast, Trump was going to accelerate as much as facilitate the revolution in this country.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize it would be going at this pace. I didn't foresee this exponential rate that makes me feel like in a hurry to like get myself situated. But yeah.
JD is 100% correct. Eventually, you find out, no, you're not in charge. That's not how this works. And for those who saw our viral clip earlier of me discussing Candace Owens and Turning Point USA, I said unequivocally, I understand that, Candace, obviously, Charlie meant a great deal to her. And of course, she wants to memorialize him in a very profound way, understandably so. But Charlie Kirk was nothing more than a Trojan horse who knew how to talk on the stump. You would never have heard of him. He never would have existed in anybody's minds if it wasn't for the Zio billionaire class that allowed him to build that empire. That is the dirty secret about this broken system. You think people end up getting to these levels because they're just that great? Some over time can build an audience and things are going well, and yeah, they can get to certain places, but in the end, the buck will eventually stop with the people who pull the levers. The New York Times, who in the fuck reads the New York Times other than the biggest shitlibs walking the earth? The people who always vote in favor of war, who always vote in favor of the establishment, who
entitled people. I didn't mean to do that. Entitled people is the point.
Yeah. Why did you put that up there?
I didn't mean to. I accidentally was trying to scroll down. I was saying to you, the people that are doing it are always entitled people. That who wants to go send other people's children to die for their shit.
Correct. And that's why now you come to this point about the New York Times suing the Pentagon. Who's working in the Pentagon now? Laura freaking Loomer is working in the Pentagon. Boy, we really have fallen quite far from Helen Thomas, haven't we, Jen?
Well, I'm not seeing the correlation between Helen Thomas and Laura Loomer. I'm not seeing that at all. But
my point is that who is delivering news if they're working in the Pentagon? If somebody like Laura Loomer is given press credentials in the Pentagon, but the New York Times is suing the Pentagon over First Amendment rights, how much further can we fall before eventually people say, I've had enough? I think we're pretty close. Like you said, we're probably not that far away.
The Pentagon's rules, which just came into effect, require reporters to sign a 21-page form that sets limits on journalistic activities, including asking insiders for story tips. The New York Times is arguing that this infringes on the constitutional rights of its journalists.
Here's another little tidbit that not many people are aware of. If you're at one of the Turning Point USA college campus events now, where they do the Q&A, well, guess what? Now you have to submit your question ahead of time, and it has to be screened to determine if it will be asked or not. So what does that tell you? Well, what it tells me is, I'm sure it would tell you, is that they know that their time is running out because the people there are going to be asking questions about Charlie Kirk. How were you funded? Why do you support Israel? We have to screen all those questions now. So much for open debate and talking about whatever it is that we want to talk about. You can't do that anymore. But as you've said, this didn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen today. It didn't even happen a few years ago. This has been in the works for almost a generation, and it came to a head after 9/11. And everyone who has been aware of how our government operates would agree. Those that are aware would understand that the Patriot Act is what brought us to this point. And at the time, you even said, as an attorney, well, you can kiss your Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights goodbye because that's what the Patriot Act is doing. It's going to take that away. You think the Patriot Act appeared out of nowhere because of 9/11? Or was it 9/11 that allowed them to finally pass it when the president of the United States was basically able to do whatever he wants? I mean, you want to talk about a real tyrant that had the support of both political parties at the same time? You know, Trump has never had the support of the Democratic Party. George W. Bush, for a period of time, with the war on terror, had the universal support of Congress, with rare exceptions like Barbara Lee and Bernie Sanders. But overall, like Hillary Clinton, they were all on board with it. And today, what do we have today? We don't have freedom of speech. Yeah, we have freedom of speech on this channel, but they can always penalize us. They did it recently.
We don't have freedom of speech. I can't even put whatever I want in the chat. It'll get rejected.
Who's to say we're not going to get another copyright strike before the first one goes up? And then
Who
we
knows?
get 2 strikes. And then the cycle repeats itself all over again before the channel is completely shadow banned. I mean, we're already dealing with enough of it as it is.
The Patriot Act was created a long time before 9/11. The Patriot Act was written. It was a plan. It was always a plan. I think it might go back to, I want to say it goes back to when they were in Reagan's administration, because it was a lot of those same people, whether it's, Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, a lot of those same people, or
No, I think
Ashcroft and those people.
No, I think if I remember correctly, I think the Patriot Act started as a response to people's concerns about the mergers regarding Clinton's passing of the Telecom Act in 96, because the media consolidation started in earnest as a result. And then it became even more obvious that people were not able to say the things that they wanted to say. They were trying to, but ultimately the Patriot Act was to make sure that they shut them up forever, at least in terms of their ability to make that change. And we went from 55 media companies, give or take, to today we have 6 or 5 that actually
Like
exist.
90% of the media. Yeah.
Okay, so the Ellisons don't buy Warner Brothers. So Netflix buys them instead. We have laws in place.
It doesn't matter. We are a completely lawless nation. We're a completely lawless nation.